Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rcha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Revelation chapter 11. This pretty much is inspired by a video Elder Pastor Tahar did, and he mentioned somebody should do a breakdown of Revelation 11, which I did one probably a few months back, but this is the spirit, because this is how you stay sharp, by constantly going over these breakdowns until you have them solid, and that's part of studying to show thyself approved, to be able to get this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and be able to attain it, and hold on to it. All right, so we're just gonna get right into it. I got few scriptures, few precepts I was going through this morning. I pretty much was following some of the precepts on the in the red Bible that we have, to get more understanding on certain particular verses, and I shalom to the Akim, if any apostles are watching, bishops, elders, brothers, sisters, the ones that are, saying all sincere, because you always got the scoffers there. All right, so we're gonna start off with Revelation 11:1, and it says, "And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood saying, Rise and measure the temple of the Most High, and the altar, and them that worship therein. Now a reed like unto a rod is a measuring stick. Now the measuring stick is what? The Bible. And the angel stood and said, Rise and measure the temple of the Most High." What is the temple of the Most High? The Israelites. That's the church. And these is all of the nation of Israel. But in these times, the only ones that's going to be delivered are the elect. So the word measure here is when you're taking measurements. And how do you take measurements? By teaching this word. And when the word goes out, it gathers the ones that are a part of the temple, the Israelites that are a part of this ministry, that are a part of being woken up. So what it says, and the altar and them that worship therein. And if you want to get into the altar, you could go to Isaiah the 19th chapter, and it goes into the altar, how the Lord is setting up the altar in the land of Egypt in these last days, and that could be, a lesson for a brother. I know Elder Yashawamba gets into that, and other, elders and brothers. So building off of that precept there, let's go real quick to Zechariah, the 2nd chapter. And of course, Satan, boy. Satan, he's always working. He's always working. Hey, so we always got to work. So just like Satan is always busy, prince of the power of the air, hey, we just got to go harder. This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 2:1. It says, "I lifted up mine eyes again and looked, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Then said I, Whither goest thou? And he said unto me, To measure Jerusalem," or Yerushalayim. It says, "to see what is the breadth thereof, and what is the length thereof," because the angel pretty much in Revelation 11 was saying to measure or to teach the Israelites out there, because the Israelites are the ones that's going to be in the kingdom of heaven, beginning with the elect. Right? So now let's go from there. Let's go to the book of the 1st chapter of Zechariah, and the 16th verse. We're going to read a couple of verses. It says, "Therefore thus saith the Lord, I am returned to Yerushalayim with mercies." And this is why the temple is being measured right now, because the Lord returned with mercy. The tender mercies of David, and the agreement, testament, and the oath that he made with Abraham. It says, "My house shall be built in it," because the name of the Lord is upon us. his whole glory, goes back to his name, goes back to his word, and he's not going to break that. That's why he's building us back up. That's why we've got a second chance now, to be able to be in his good graces. It says, save the Lord of hosts, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and a line shall be stretched forth upon Jerusalem. Right, for what? To measure it, to bring in the ones that are to be brought in. And like I said, in this time, like the scriptures say, in this time, it's dealing with the elect. Cry yet saying, thus saith the Lord of hosts, my cities through prosperity shall be spread abroad. They shall be spread abroad. Because not only are the Israelites coming back, but eventually, once the kingdom is established, there's going to be greatness. And the Lord shall yet comfort Zion and shall yet choose Jerusalem or Jerusalem. Now let's go back to the second chapter again. In the third verse, and behold, the angel that talked with me went forth, and another angel went out to meet him, and said unto him, run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls for the multitude of men and cattle therein. It says, for I am the Lord, for I the Lord will be unto her a wall of fire round about, and will be the glory in the midst of her, because in the kingdom of heaven the presence of the Lord and Yahweh, the Most High Yahweh and Yahweh Shai will be amongst us. Now let's go to Isaiah 54 and 2, building off of the measuring. Enlarge the place of thy tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of thy habitation. Spare not, lengthen thy cords, and strengthen thy stakes, because our lands are going to be plenteous, because our people, we're going to multiply, So the measuring is the teaching, building up, bringing the Israelites in, and eventually the kingdom is going to be spread abroad. There are going to be so many Israelites that this is why there's other planets out there to be inhabited, because of the multitude of Israelites that are going to be on the earth once the Lord comes back. It says, for thou shalt break forth on the right hand and on the left, and thy seed shall inherit the Gentiles as slaves, and make the desolate cities to be inhabited. So we're witnessing the rebuilding of this. And this is why when we go to Amos, the 9th chapter, and the 11th verse, it says, the restoration of Israel. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. And that's why the house of David is being built right now, which are the men and women that were with King David, We've stressed more on the men, because the men are the ones out there doing the work as far as teaching this word. And I will raise up his ruins, because we were falling down, and I will build it as in the days of old. So that's what's happening right now. The kingdom of heaven is being reestablished. That's why Yahweh Shai told them individuals that thought that the kingdom of heaven was going to appear by sight. He said, the kingdom of heaven cometh not by observation, but the kingdom of heaven is within you. Because the nation of Israel make up the kingdom of heaven. This knowledge, wisdom, and understanding makes up the kingdom of heaven. So together as a union is that church, is that building. It's that the thing that the angel told the man to. The angel said to measure the temple. As we go back to, it says, and I'll raise up his ruins, and will build it as in the days of old. As it said here, and there was given me a reed like unto a rod, which is a measuring stick, which is the Bible. And the angel stood saying, rise and measure the temple of the Most High. Teach it. And the altar, those that teach. Teach the temple, and also those that worship in the altar, and those that are the teachers on the altar, or the priests. And them that worship therein, the rest of Israel. Remember the great cloud of witnesses. It says, but the court which is without the temple, the one that's out there, leave out and measure it not. So don't teach that. Why? Because that's given to the nations. And right now, the Israelites are to be built up. When the kingdom of heaven is established, as pursuant to Isaiah the 2nd chapter, Micah the 4th chapter, then the nations will have to come and learn of our ways. Right now, the main thing that the Spirit has us doing is teaching Israelites, namely the elect at this time. All right? Because the heathens will not have an inheritance with us. But after they serve their captivity, they'll have their lands. They'll be able to govern among themselves, but they'll have to follow our laws, statutes, and commandments. Just like we had to follow them. It says, for it is given unto the Gentiles, or the actual heathens, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 40 and 2 months. Now, when you break down 40 and 2 months, also breaks down to 1,260 days, 3.5 days, times, and the dividing of times. That all adds up to 3.5 years. But these 3.5 years are prophetic, and we're going to get into that. But it said that they shall tread underfoot the holy city, right? Meaning the Israelites. All right, so let's go from there real quick. Let's go to the book of Psalms. Before we get to the numbering, Psalm 79:1. O Most High, the heathen are come into thine inheritance. Thy holy temple have they defiled. They have laid Jerusalem on heaps. And this happened during what? This, you could go all the way back to the Babylonian Empire. So the Lord showed King David the city and the temple and everything being destroyed by the Babylonians, because King David is a prophet. He was a king, but he was also a prophet. So he actually saw this afar off. So read that again. O Most High, the heathen are come into thine inheritance. Thy holy temple have they defiled. They have laid Jerusalem on heaps. Now let's go from there to Luke 21:24. It says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, meaning the Israelites. Remember, the holy city would be persecuted. It happened through different captivities, and it's happened now in these times, and it's gonna happen again before the Lord comes, because you're gonna have what's called the time of Jacob's trouble, and shall be led away captive into all nations, which happened, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled, meaning until the Lord comes back to wipe them off, from our land, take their crowns, the ones that are in rulership positions, and reestablish the kingdom of heaven on the planet Earth. And we're fast approaching that time. All right, so going back to the 40 and 2 months, let's read that again. And the holy city shall they tread underfoot 40 and 2 months, and I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, which we're going to get into that. And they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. So this 40 and 2 months, 1,260 days, this all is a representation of the same thing. All right, let's go from there real quick to the book of, we're going to leave, am I going to need this anymore? I thought I was going to need this again. But you know what? If we need it, we'll just get it again. All right, so let's go from there to Revelation 12:6. And it says, and the woman fled into the wilderness, the woman being Israel, during the time of the Roman persecution, 70 AD, in that time frame. The wilderness is Africa, mainly, because Jake fled other places, but the place that the Israelites fled to, that were going to be led into captivity later on, to the place was here in America. I mean, it was in so-called Africa. Salakia misspoke. It says where she had the place prepared of the Most High, because this place is dealing with America. So the Lord had already set up a point or a place where the Israelites would have to go to suffer for a certain period of time. Now, the ones that fled into the interiors of Africa, which is the wilderness, those are the ones that were gathered together and brought over on cargo slave ships over to the so-called New World, in the Americas. So it says, and the woman fled into the wilderness because they escaped from Roman persecution, fleeing into the so-called Africa, but remember, they fled in other places, but this particular wilderness is talking about the interiors of the land of Ham, so-called Africa, where she had the place prepared of the Most High, because from that point, it was about 1,500 years later or so, they started to be shipped over to this side of the world. It says that they should feed her there, 1,260 days, and that breaks down to 3.5 years. Now, those 3.5 years are not actually 3 years, 3 years and 6 months. It's prophetic. It's 350 years, And how do we know that? Because from the time that the bulk of this, because remember you had slaves here, Jake, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi coming over here already. But the bulk of them came over here around 1619, 1620. And around 1969, 1970, this is when this truth started to be taught. Now if the Spirit is working with you, you could see it. If not, you're not going to be able to see it. You're going to, oh, that's nonsense. But if the Spirit is with you, you'll be able to see that. Because what you see going on right now in this great awakening, when did this happen? This goes back to a man by the name of Abba Bivens. That's why everybody comes against him. That's why, they come against the 12 tribes chart. That's why they come against One West, because they know what we're teaching is the truth. And there's no way that they can really refute it, but they're looking for tangible things. This thing is done spiritual. What did Yahushua tell not Timothy? What did he tell Thomas? He said, "Blessed is he that have not seen and yet believe," because it's going to be based upon faith. All right. So that 1,203 days is 350 years, 3.5 years, which is 350 years. And after this time period, this is when a great awakening started happening. So when we jump to the 14th verse, it says, "And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, because she had a great escape from the Romans," the ones that were able to escape from the Romans, "that she might fly into the wilderness," which is so-called Africa, "into her place," because when she got there, after a certain period of time, they started to be sold unto the Edomites and brought over to this side of the world as slaves. You see? It says where she is nourished, and Jake was nourished here. Even though they were in slavery, catching hell under these devils, even though everything was messed up, jacked up, but they had room, they had board, they were fed, even though it was garbage, but these devils nourished Jake, and that's how they were able to continue to work, in that case, because the other tribes were already here. The northern kingdom was already here, and the Lord had to bring the rest of the tribes over here as pursuant to prophecy to link them back together once again. All right, it says, let's read that again. "And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and a half of times from the face of the serpent." And that's right. So it was time and time and a half a time. That's another 3.5 or 42 months or 1,260 days, which adds up to 3 years and a half, which are prophetic years when you understand the prophecy, which is 350 years. All right. So going back to Revelation 11, now we're going to go to verse 4. And they were clothed in sackcloth, because you see how Jake was in captivity. They didn't have the best threads. They were all ragtag. It says, "These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the power of the earth." And this is twofold, but we're just going to deal with the one dealing with the nation itself, because the nation of Israel was broken into 2 parts. You had the southern kingdom, you had the northern kingdom, and the people within there, you have the elect on both sides, the southern and the northern kingdom, and the oil is the Bible. So you have prophets from the southern kingdom, you have prophets from the northern kingdom. And these are the 2 candlesticks that are standing before the power of the earth. And this is how the Lord is gathering his elect, by the word of these prophets, that are teaching, that are pouring the oil out, around the 4 corners of the earth. All right. And this is why the internet was created, to be able to disseminate or push out this word, which is the oil. All right. It says, "And if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth." I'm sorry. Before I go to that, let's read this again. "These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the power of the earth." Let's go from there real quick to the book of Psalms. I believe that's 52. Yep, 52 and 8. This is King David speaking. "But I am like a green olive tree in the house of the Most High. I trust in thy mercy. I trust in the mercy of the Most High forever and ever. I will praise thee forever, because thou hast done it, and I will wait on thy name, for it is good before thy saints, because the saints are the olive trees. You know, and all of the saints at one point became wild, and that's the prophecy in the book of Romans, the 11th chapter, about the ones that were grafted back in. So let's go from there to the book of Jeremiah 11 and 16. It says, the Lord called thy name a green olive tree, fair and of goodly fruit. With the noise of a great tumult, he hath kindled fire upon it, and the branches of it are broken. And this is why we went into captivity. We fell as a people. We became unclean. And just, you see where Jake is at today. For the Lord of hosts has planted thee, for the Lord of hosts that planted thee has pronounced evil against thee, for the evil of the house of Israel and the house of Judah. So who is this olive tree a representation of? The house of Israel and the house of Judah. But then it says, which they have done against themselves to provoke me to anger, in offering incense unto Baal, because the Lord said that some of the branches would be broken off. And this is why you had to have a grafting in later on, in the book of Romans, the 11th chapter. Because some of the goodly green olives in the olive tree fell away and became wild. All right, but that's another lesson for another time. All right, so now let's go from there back to Revelation 11, and let's go to the 5th verse. It says, if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth, and devoureth their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. So this goes back in history. You had Elijah, the prophet. You had the prophets back then, and they had spiritual power. And pretty much in this time, the Lord is going to give spiritual power to certain men. We don't know who, we don't know how, but the Lord, when the time comes, he will do that. But this goes back to Elijah, and then it says, these have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, which goes back to Elijah once again. When he called for the rain to stop, it was, I believe, a period of 3.5 years, I believe, or 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. And then finally it rained again. But what happened during that whole time? The Lord took care of Elijah, because Elijah did what the Lord said to do, because the Lord put the spirit in Elijah to do it. And that's why he was, taken care of. So it says, and have power over the waters to turn them to blood, which Moses did that. And to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will, which Moses again did that. All right. So the elect are going to be taken care of, and eventually the nation of Israel and the kingdom of heaven. All right. So let's see what we got. So let's read on. It says, and when they shall have finished their testimony, dealing with what? Dealing with that time frame that the Lord gave for them to suffer, to be trodden underfoot of the Gentiles, of the nations, to have the nations shed the blood of the saints. When that is finished, when that testimony is finished, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. Yeah, because after that period of time of so-called slavery, what happened? Jake was released out of captivity. They went through different things, and then coming all the way up to the 60s and the 70s, where they were given, they had certain programs that were given to Jake. Eventually, all of those programs, welfare and food stamps and all of that stuff that they had at one time, is slowly but surely being taken away, because we're coming into the time of the agenda of the so-called elite that they're pushing out there. So all this stuff is being taken away. So in the midst of that, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to wage war against Jake once again. This is where we come into the time of Jacob's trouble, that tribulation that shall be, that there was no time like this ever on the planet Earth. All right. It says, and also the curses, the scriptures, everything came upon Jake just the way the Lord said it would. Let's go real quick to the book of Isaiah 28 real quick. It says Isaiah 28 and 12. It says, to whom he said, this is the rest wherewith you may cause the weary to rest, and this is the refreshing. So what is that? The Bible, the scriptures, which is what? The comforter. And this is where we can rest at. But it says, yet they would not hear. So certain Israelites didn't listen. So what happened? Which eventually we all fell into that category. It says, like the scriptures say, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory. And there's others. It says, but the word of the Lord was unto them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. That's why you go back to the curses. You go back to certain prophecies of Jake catching hell, being in captivity. The word of the Lord came upon them precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little. You know, curse shall thou be in the city, curse shall thou be in the field, curse shall be thy store, curse shall be thy basket. You know, you're going to go into captivity, you're going to go into slavery. So all of those things came upon Jake. The same way we break the scriptures down, here a little, there a little, precept upon precept, is the same way these precepts came upon Jake. All the way till you reach the Americas, the soils of the Americas. It says that they might go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken. See? And that's what happened. So let's read that again. Revelation 11:7. And when they shall have finished their testimony, what testimony? The curses coming upon us. You know, the time of captivity, being brought over here to this side of the world. That was a testimony. Because Jake wasn't really prophesying. I mean, you had some of them that were speaking about, you know, rebellions and stuff like that. But for the most part, Jake was in a docile state. They were suffering the curses. See? It says the beast that ascended. So when that's finished, when the 350-year period is finished, that this time frame, the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them. All right. So now let's go from there to the book of Daniel, chapter 7. And we're going to go to the 20th verse. It says, and of the 10 horns, because remember, the fourth beast is the Roman Empire. It had 10 horns. Out of those 10 horns came a little horn. That little horn is America. That plucked up 3 of the horns that were before it, which were the Spanish, the French, and the British, which were the 3 major nations, Edomite nations, European nations, that had control over the so-called Americas. Right? It says, in the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other one which came up, which is America, and before whom 3 fell, which we just spoke about, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows, because America has that pompous attitude even towards their own people of the other so-called European nations, these Edomites. So it says, I beheld, and the same horn, America, made what? Made war with the saints and prevailed against them. That's why when we read, I believe it's Revelation 17, it said that John, the Apostle John, saw the woman, which is America, drunken with the blood of the saints. So that was that time period that took place, you know. So that was a great time of punishment. And once that 350 year came up, boom, the prophecy moved forward to the next phase. All right. It says, until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. So we're at the point now where the Lord is allowing us to profess that the kingdom of heaven is going to be established. You see? And that's why, you know, it went through those phases. And when we go back to Revelation, before we go to Revelation 11, let's go to Revelation 12 and 12. And this is why this is written. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Why? Because it's time for the Lord to take these devils out. Because a couple of verses prior to this, what happened? The Lord cast that dragon out, meaning Esau. It says, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you. having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And this is why they're pushing so hard, to get their agenda moving forward and established, because they know that they have but a short time. That's why the scripture say that when the deadly wound was healed and came back into power, it said that he had two horns like a lamb, but he spake as a dragon. Because eventually these devils are going to start playing with people. They're going to really start putting the screws in. The horns are going to really come out. They're going to start protruding more and more, because this is prophecy. The time of Jacob's trouble must come. And this is where we're at now. So the Lord is going to cause this devil to wage war against Jake. It says that there shall be a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. All right. So going back to Revelation 11, and let's read 7 again. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them. And that's what's going to get ready to happen. And then once Jake was to a point where this, the so-called civil rights movement came into place, they started to think that they were free. But what happened? Mentally, they were dead. And physically, they had the appearance of freedom, but really it wasn't. All right. It says, so it goes on to say, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. So now what does it mean by dead bodies? Is it talking about actual dead corpses? No. It's talking about mentally dead. Let's go from there to the book of Proverbs. And we're going to get back to this. Proverbs 21 and 16. It says, the man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. And this is why we read in the book of Ezekiel about the dry bones in the valley. It all ties together in prophecy. And this is why it's important to teach. This is why it's important to have that 12 tribe sign. Because that 12 tribe sign is a conversation piece to gather Jake out there. No matter where they may be, no matter what they may look like, as long as their line goes back to the Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. So this is what was going on. So Jake was in the congregation of the dead. So out of that zombified state, the Lord caused certain Israelites to wake up. Let's get real quick. Isaiah 60 and 1. Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. So wake up from that dead state. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But the Lord shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. See? And that's what these devils are witnessing right now. Let's go real quick to Isaiah 25 and 7. Thou shalt, 7. And he, the Most High, will destroy in this mountain, America, the face of the covering cast over all people. That was that darkness, those different labels that Esau put upon Jake to keep them in darkness. And the veil that is spread over all nations, because even the nations have veils spread over them, because all peoples of the planet Earth come out of either Ham, Shem, or Japhet, or Shem, Ham, and Japhet. But everybody today in the world, most people have different names that were placed upon them by their conquerors. They don't have their true biblical names. And that's why there's such a confusion going on in the world. That's that gross darkness. So going back to Revelation 8, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. The great city is America, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. You already know why it's called Sodom, and Egypt, because this mimics, ancient Egypt where we were in captivity. But the difference is that in ancient Egypt, we knew that we were Israelites. In modern day Egypt, we don't know that we're Israelites. But now there's a great awakening starting to happen. It says, where also our Lord was crucified, because Yahushua was crossed out here by the image of Caesar Borgia. Serapis Christus, and whatever other names they give that so-called white image out there that they try to paint as the Most High and his son. And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations, because all these nations are in cahoot with this. The kings of these nations. This is why they're going to come and be visited. The top elite among these nations and the top peoples up in them upper echelons, they know who the Israelites are. Psalms the 83rd chapter. And that was their goal, to stop us from learning our nationality. That's why the main threat was who? Judah. That's why Judah in slavery was not allowed to read. You know? And if they read the Bible, they were put to death. Because Esau didn't want Jake to wake up. So these nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, going back to that 350-year period. And shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves, because they didn't put Jake to rest by letting them know who they were. Yahweh said, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free, or make you free. So if you don't know the truth, means what? You're in slumber. You're in captivity. You're in a grave. You're dead. So they didn't offer, to tell Jake who they were and give him that hope. That came from the Lord himself through a man by the name of Abba Bivens, which was around way before 1969. But this is when the Great Awakening happened, because there was a separation between him and the other Old Testament heads, because he was the first one that started to go into the New Testament, because the Spirit moved him, because the New Testament was important in putting the whole message together. That's why I said that those other ones, they came together bone to their bone, but there was no breath in them. They didn't have the proper understanding. It's not just like you hear Elder Pastor say it all the time. It's not just about knowing you're an Israelite. It's doing and understanding what's going on. It said, and shall not suffer the dead bodies to be put in graves. It says, and they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another. What do you think those gifts were? Go into the book of Joel 3. Those were Jake as slaves. And prior to Judah, Benjamin, and Levi coming over to this side of the world, you had the northern kingdom here. Gad, Ephraim, Reuben, all them. And slavery in the New World began with Christopher Columbus, which he has another name that I just found out about. I got to go back and find out what it was. It wasn't Cristobal Colon. I think those are just all pseudonyms. He had an actual other name, but that goes into something else. And shall send gifts one to another. So there were already slaves being sent from this part of the world to Europe and other places prior to Judah, Benjamin, and Levi coming to the soils of America. Only difference is that Judah suffered it the worst. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, but Judah suffered it the worst because they're the head tribe. It says, because these two prophets tormented them that dwell on the earth. And this is why when we go back and read Lamentations 2, these heathens were happy when we fell, when the Babylonians destroyed us, because they know that, okay, now we don't have to worry about these people anymore. But unbeknownst to them, we would be set back up into power later on. It says, and after 3 days and a half, meaning after the 350-year period that we've been reading all in the book of Revelation, the Spirit of life from the Most High entered into them. Why? Because we were the valley of the dry bones, and we were dead mentally. And the Lord caused his breath to come into us, to wake us up. And it's not just about waking up and knowing you're an Israelite. We're also commanded to go out there and teach and wake up others also, so that they can become teachers. Talking about the men. It says, and they stood upon their feet. What does it mean that they stood upon their feet? Meaning they came to themselves. They no longer had the bowing down to make themselves as the ground for these devils to walk over. Found out that, damn, we are the Israelites. We're the best people on the planet Earth. And these mother effers, did this to us. So they stood upon their feet. And we're out there on the streets on our feet. It says, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. Who's the ones that the great fear came upon? Esau and the other nations. Or would you want more on that? Go to the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the 5th chapter. When they're going to be in terrible fear because Jake is waking up. Let's go to Psalms chapter 50 and verse 21. And it says, these things hast thou done, and I kept silence. Dealing with Esau, you slandered us, you spoke evil against us, you did all kind of manner of wickedness. It says, thou thoughtest that I was altogether such an one as thyself. Why did you think the Most High was on your side or like you? Because the Lord didn't open up on you. But not because he was on your side, but because he was letting you accumulate, that ass whipping that he's going to give you. And it was set up to punish us. It says, but I will reprove thee and set them in order before thine eyes. And then we're witnessing the Israelites being set up in order before the eyes of these nations. And that's why they get nervous. That's why they're paying this group off and that group off. That's why you got your vocab Malones, which is a joke. You got your other so-called Christians that are coming against the Hebrew Israelites and said, nope, that's not talking about this, that's not talking about that, this ain't talking about that, that ain't talking about that. Everything that we're breaking down in the scriptures, they talking about that. Nope, that's not what that's talking about. But they can't break it down. Anyways, that's another lesson. So going back to Revelation 11 and 12, it says, and they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And this is what it means in Revelation 18, which we're going to get real quick. Come up hither. Why? Because the chariot is going to be above and the elect are going to go up into the chariots. This is dealing with the deliverance from America. And you're going to have a deliverance all over the world, but the main deliverance is going to be from here in America. And this is why this place was established. Because this was the place where the Lord was going to give us our punishment and give us our deliverance. It says, and they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. See? Just like our Wisdom of Solomon. They're going to say, we fools. So let's go from there real quick to the book of Isaiah 31 and 5. As birds flying, so will the Lord of hosts defend Jerusalem, or Yerushalayim, which is what? The chariots. Defending also, he will deliver it, and passing over it, he will preserve it. So the Lord is going to deliver us by way of chariots. Lord's will, we be the elect. He's going to deliver us by the chariots. Now let's go to Revelation 18 and 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become, sorry, that's not the one. 4. And I heard of another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. This is not talking about come out of America and don't partake in anything. This is talking about the deliverance into the chariots to avoid the destruction that's coming upon this place. Isaiah 26 and 20. Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, which are the chariots, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself, as it were, for a little moment, until the indignation be overpast. Because the chariots are going to be what? The new ark. The new Noah's ark. Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself, as it were, for a little moment, until the indignation be overpast. So here in Revelation 18 and 4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. Because the only place to really be safe is up in the chariots, while the indignation of the Lord fires upon this place, Babylon the Great. All right, so let's go back to Revelation 11 and 13. And it says, and the same hour was there a great earthquake. And this great earthquake is not talking about 10-point magnitude. This is talking about the whole earth rocking to and fro. You can read Isaiah the 24th chapter for that. And the 10th part of the city fell, which represents America. And in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, which is a complete number, completion. And the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the power of heaven. Yeah, the remnant are who? The ones that are going to be saved, the elect. And why are they going to be affrighted? You know, if we make it out of here, the Lord's will, we're going to be nervous because it's going to be devastating. You know, but at the same time, we're going to be giving glory and praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. You know, just imagine you in a bad situation and the Lord delivers you, how much praise you will give the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai for delivering you from that situation. Right? So now let's go from there to the book of, we're going to get 2 precepts on that. Revelation 16 to deal with the earthquake. And 17, it says, 7th bowl of wrath. Damn. And the 7th angel poured out his vial into the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, it is done. Why? Because the 7th trumpet is it. That's what the Lord said. He will deliver thee in six trumpets, yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. Because once the 7th trumpet blows, it's over. And there were voices and thunders and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake. And what's going to cause that great earthquake? The missiles, once they hit the earth, it's going to cause the earth to rock and reel to and fro like a drunkard. Such as was not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake, and so great. And the great city was divided into 3 parts, because that the world as a whole is divided into 3 classifications of men. The sons of the power, or the sons of God, which are the Israelites, the sons of men, which are the other nations, and the sons of the wicked, which are the Edomites. And the cities of the nations fell. Yeah, because all nations are going to go down after this. They're not going to be able to take next, so to speak. And great Babylon came in remembrance before the Most High, to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath, which is that destruction. And every island fled away, and the mountains were not found, because there's going to be total devastation, man. But the earth as a whole is not going to be destroyed. It's just America, Israel, and whatever other parts the Lord causes to get hit by those nukes. And there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven. And what is that great hail? That great hail represents those nuclear missiles. Every stone about the weight of a talent, and the weight of a talent, depending on where you go to get the measurement from or weight from, is anywhere between 75 to 100 pounds. So when the Apostle John saw the missiles flying over and about to destroy this place, he described them as hail, that weighed about the weight of a talent. And men blasphemed the Most High because of the plagues of the hail, for the plague thereof was exceeding great. Yeah, man, and it's gonna be terrible. You know them. You know how them devils be cursing the Most High. F you. Hey, that day they're gonna really be cursing the Most High when the Most High started licking them down with that fire. Now let's deal with the part of them being affrighted, but giving glory. Revelation 15:1. And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues. For in them is filled up the wrath of the Most High. Because once that 7th trumpet blows, it's a wrap. It's finished. Right? So it says, and I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire. What is the sea of glass? The ozone layer. Why does it say mingled with fire? Because they're looking through the ozone layer down into the earth, and they see in America on fire. The land of Israel on fire. And whatever other place around the world the Lord is going to set on fire. And them that had gotten the victory over the beast, because he saw the men, the elect, that were in the chariots. He happened to be one of them also. You know, that got the victory over the beast and over his image and over his mark and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of the Most High. Why were they standing on the sea of glass? Because they were in a chariot, rejoicing. They were affrighted, but yet gave glory. It says, and they sing the song of Moses, the servant of the Most High. The song of Moses is in the book of Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter. You know, which years ago I thought it was Exodus 15, which I was wrong about that. It's actually Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter. And that is the song of Moses. Because that was the actual song that Moses was singing. It says, and they sang the song of Moses, the servant of the Most High, and the song of the Lamb, saying, great and marvelous are thy works, Lord power almighty, just and true are thy ways, thou King of saints. So the Lord is going to be honored and praised and glorified in that day. you know, and the elect are going to be more than willing and happy to be glorifying the Lord, to be able to have escaped this terrible destruction. Revelation 11 and 14, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. This is dealing with World War II, and then World War III is fast approaching. And this is another way of speaking about the nuclear destruction, World War III, or the third woe. This is what's going to finally bring the end to this whole situation. And after this war, there will be no more wars after that. It says, the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord. Yeah, so we're in that point now. And this is why the Spirit of the Lord entered into the prophets to what? To prophesy, and great fear fell upon them that heard them. Because the kingdom of Yahushua is about to be established. It says, and of his anointed, and he shall reign forever and ever. And the 24 elders which sat before the Most High on their seats fell upon their faces and worshipped the Most High, saying, we give thee thanks, O Lord, power almighty, which art and was and art to come, because thou hast taken to thee thy great power and has reigned. Yeah, because at the end of the day, whatever Yahweh Bashem Yahushai said, that's what's going to go down. Remember, the Lord said his word does not go out void. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come. Why are they going to be angry? Because their dominions are going to be taken away. Because here in their mind, they're thinking that they're going to be the next ruler. China is on the come up. Russia, they coming up there. Singapore, all these different places are getting rich. They're salivating for the moment to take the position, the first position on the planet, and having their currency be the world reserve currency, so that they can receive all the benefits. But they thought wrong. Inside joke. And the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that they should give reward unto the servants, unto thy servants the prophets. Yeah, because with the destruction comes rewards. It says, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, not just because you're an Israelite, but because of your works, your faith, in fearing the names of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, small and great, and should have destroyed them which destroy the earth. And this is going to be the judgment upon Esau for destroying his earth. And that's just one of the things he has to pay for. The Lord is bringing his destruction for the controversy of Zion. He's going to bring hell upon these devils. It says, and the temple of the Most High was open in heaven, and there was seen in the temple the ark of his testament, and there were lightnings and voices and thunderings, and an earthquake and great hail. All right. So that's been Revelation, the 11th chapter. I pray that you brothers and your few sisters have been edified. And to the next time I say, Shalom.